Part 1 extended. The rain hit the jungle before dawn, pounding the leaves so hard it sounded like thousands of hands clapping in the dark. Private Emma Carter woke to the sharp smell of burning metal and blood. For a moment she didn't remember where she was. Her body hung upside down, trapped in twisted straps. Her head throbbed so violently she thought her skull had split open. The world spun around her, sparks, smoke, red warning lights flashing inside the wreckage. Then the memory returned. The helicopter had gone down. Her hand shot to her sidearm, but it was gone. She unbuckled her harness, crashed hard onto the roof of the aircraft, now the floor, and gasped as pain exploded through her left knee. Smoke filled her lungs. Somewhere nearby, flames were spreading fast. "Sergeant," she shouted. No answer. She pushed herself up, limping through the wreckage. The pilot's body hung motionless in the cockpit. Another soldier was pinned beneath a collapsed seat, eyes open, unblinking. Emma swallowed hard. Her throat tightened, but there was no time for grief. She grabbed her rifle, one half-burned pack, and a canteen. The emergency radio had shattered. The satellite beacon was gone. A crackling roar came from behind her. Fuel! The fire had reached the tank. She dove through the torn side hatch and rolled down a slope just as the helicopter exploded. Fire rose into the canopy. Heat blasted her back. Chunks of burning debris rained through the trees. Then came silence. The kind that felt wrong. No birds, no insects, nothing. The jungle had gone still. Emma pushed herself to her feet and stared at the smoking crater where her team had died. Her ears rang. Blood ran from a cut above her eyebrow. Her left arm was gashed deep from elbow to wrist. She was 22 years old, and completely alone. By sunrise, she had already moved half a mile away from the crash. Training told her to put distance between herself and the wreckage. Any enemy force in the area would investigate the explosion. Rescue would be delayed. She couldn't count on anyone. She found a ridge overlooking the valley and took inventory. 1 rifle, 2 magazines, combat knife, half-full canteen, 3 protein bars, basic medical kit. A map burned beyond recognition. Compass cracked. No radio. No flares. No rescue beacon. She cursed under her breath and wrapped her arm with gauze. Her instructors in the United States Army had drilled one phrase into every survival trainee. Move, hide, endure. So she moved. By noon, the jungle heat became brutal. Sweat soaked her uniform. Mosquitoes swarmed around every patch of exposed skin. Roots twisted across the ground like traps. Every step sank into wet earth. She followed the sun where she could see it through the trees, trying to head north toward the extraction point. But under the canopy, north became a guess. By evening, clouds rolled in. The first thunder shook the ground. Then the rain came. Emma had never seen rain like it. It fell in solid sheets, turning the jungle into a river. Mud reached her ankles within minutes. Her boots filled, her bandage soaked through. She found shelter under a giant tree whose roots rose like walls from the ground. She crawled between them and hugged her rifle to her chest. That night, something screamed in the darkness. Not human. The sound came from less than 50 feet away. Then another answered deeper in the trees. Emma didn't sleep. She stared into blackness until dawn, finger on the trigger. Day 2 began with tracks. Boot prints. Fresh. At least 4 men. They were moving from the direction of the crash. Enemy patrol. Emma crouched behind broad ferns and watched them pass. Their uniforms were dark green, faces painted. They moved in a formation too disciplined for local militia. One carried a handheld radio. Another held something in his hand. A strip of fabric. American flag patch. Torn from one of her team. Emma's jaw tightened. They weren't looking for survivors. They were confirming kills. One of the soldiers pointed toward the ridge. The group changed direction and started climbing. Toward her. Emma slipped back into the undergrowth and crawled downhill, every movement slow, careful. One snapped branch could give her away. She moved for hours. Only when the sun dropped did she stop. She ate half a protein bar and drank 2 mouthfuls of water. That was all. She had to make it last. By day 3, the fever started. The cut on her arm had swollen and turned red. She knew infection was setting in. She found a stream cutting through a rocky slope. The water looked clear, but animal tracks surrounded it. Small prints. Large ones. Clawed. She knelt anyway, she had no choice. As she filled her canteen, the jungle went silent again. Emma froze. The hairs on her neck rose. She looked up. Across the stream, half hidden by hanging vines, stood a jaguar. Massive. Its yellow eyes locked on her. Its muscles shifted beneath black-spotted fur. It was close enough to leap before she could aim properly. Emma stood slowly, rifle raised. The cat didn't move. Rain dripped from leaves above them. Neither broke eye contact. Then her boots slid in mud. The jaguar sprang. Emma fired. The rifle cracked like thunder. The jaguar twisted midair and vanished into brush with a violent scream. Emma fell backward into the stream. And then she heard something worse. Voices. Human voices. The gunshot had carried. She scrambled to her feet and ran. Branches slashed her face, roots grabbed her boots, her lungs burned. Behind her, men shouted. A dog barked. Her blood ran cold. Tracking dogs. They had brought dogs. Emma sprinted downhill. The slope became slick clay. She lost footing and fell, rolling through ferns before crashing into a ravine filled with black mud. She stayed down. Above, footsteps approached. A flashlight beam cut through rain. The dog barked at the ravine edge. Emma pressed herself into the mud, face buried beneath tangled roots. Her entire body shook. She could hear the dog sniffing overhead. One soldier said something sharply. The dog barked again. Emma gripped the knife in silence, ready to die fighting. Then thunder cracked overhead. Rain intensified. The dog whined. After what felt like hours, the footsteps moved away. Emma remained motionless until sunset. She could barely walk now. Her knee had swollen, her arm burned with fever, her vision blurred every few minutes. That night she stumbled into something unexpected. A camp. Hidden behind thick vines, almost invisible. A tarp tied between trees, fire pit, rusted metal pot, empty cans. Someone lived there. Recently. Emma checked for tripwires. Nothing. She stepped inside, rifle raised. A small wooden crate sat in the corner. Inside, canned beans, matches, dried cloth, and one medical bottle. Antibiotics. She stared at them like treasure. Whoever lived here was gone. Or watching. Emma took one tablet, swallowed it dry, and sat beneath the tarp as rain hammered overhead. For the first time in 3 days, she felt something close to hope. Then a branch snapped outside. Emma spun, rifle aimed. A shadow stood at the edge of the shelter. Tall. Still. A man stepped into the dim light. He wore faded jungle clothing, gray beard, deep scars across one side of his face. An old shotgun rested in his hands. He spoke perfect English. That's my camp. Emma aimed at his chest. Don't move. The man looked at her arm, then the fever in her eyes. He set the shotgun down slowly. You're the survivor from the helicopter. Emma said nothing. The stranger stepped closer into the lantern light hanging beneath the tarp. You should be dead. She tightened her grip. Who are you? He ignored the question. Instead, he pointed toward the valley. They're searching every trail. Dogs, drones, patrol teams. Emma's pulse jumped. How do you know? The man's expression hardened. Because I used to work for the same people hunting you. Before she could speak, distant lights appeared through the trees. Searchlights. Moving in a line. Straight toward the camp. Emma raised her rifle. The stranger looked at her, then said quietly, "The helicopter crash wasn't an accident." Her breath stopped. He met her eyes. Someone in your command sold your unit. You were never supposed to come back alive. Then from the darkness came the bark of a dog. Much closer this time. And a voice shouted in English, "She's here, move in." The bark came so close, it sounded like it was inside the shelter. Private Emma Carter snapped the rifle toward the tree line, finger tightening on the trigger. Her heartbeat pounded so hard she could barely hear the rain. The stranger didn't panic. He moved like someone who had lived through this before. He grabbed the lantern, blew it out, and darkness swallowed the camp. "Follow me if you want to live," he whispered. Emma kept the rifle aimed at him. The searchlights grew brighter through the vines. She could hear boots splashing through mud, men shouting coordinates, dogs pulling on leashes. She had maybe 10 seconds. The stranger yanked a section of rotting floorboards from inside the shelter. Beneath them was a narrow hole descending into darkness. Emma hesitated. The man looked up sharply. "Stay, and they'll cut your throat before sunrise." That was enough. She dropped into the hole. The stranger followed and pulled the boards back above them. Instantly, the noise of the jungle dimmed. They were underground in a cramped tunnel barely wide enough to crawl. The air smelled of wet soil and old smoke. Above them, footsteps pounded into the camp. A dog barked directly overhead. Emma held her breath. Someone kicked over the crate. Metal clanged, a man cursed. Flashlight beams leaked through cracks in the boards above. The stranger motioned for silence and crawled deeper into the tunnel. Emma followed, dragging her injured leg. The tunnel sloped downward for what felt like forever. Mud coated her hands. Roots hung from the ceiling. Twice she nearly blacked out from pain. At last they emerged inside a cave, hidden behind thick roots beside a river. Moonlight shimmered through the opening. The stranger replaced the vines covering the entrance and crouched silently, listening. Only after several minutes did he relax. They didn't find it. Emma stayed on one knee, rifle still pointed at him. "Talk." The man sat against the cave wall and studied her. "You're not asking the right question." Emma's voice sharpened. "Who are you?" He stared at the river. "My name is Daniel Voss. I was intelligence support attached to a classified unit. I disappeared here 4 years ago." Emma frowned. She had heard the name. A missing operative, presumed dead. Training brief, restricted. You were declared KIA. Voss gave a dry laugh. "That's what they wanted." Rain echoed outside. Water dripped from the cave ceiling. Emma lowered the rifle slightly, but not much. "You said my unit was sold out." Voss nodded. "The mission wasn't recon, it was a delivery." The words hit like a punch. "What?" He leaned forward. "Someone in your chain of command fed coordinates to the enemy. The helicopter was guided into that valley. Your squad was the package." Emma shook her head. "No, that's impossible." Voss's face hardened. "I watched them place the anti-air device 2 nights ago. They knew the exact route, exact time, exact altitude." Emma's thoughts spun, her squad leader, her captain, her briefing, all of it had seemed normal. Unless someone had known. Unless someone wanted them gone. She opened her mouth to ask another question, but dizziness hit hard. Her vision blurred. Voss caught her before she collapsed. "You're burning up." He pulled a flashlight from his pack and examined the cut on her arm. The skin was red and swollen. "Infection." He opened an old metal case and removed alcohol, gauze, and a syringe. Emma's eyes narrowed. "No injections. You'll die by morning without antibiotics." She still didn't trust him. But the pain in her arm was unbearable. Her entire body shivered. Finally, she nodded once. Voss cleaned the wound while Emma bit down on her sleeve to keep from screaming. The antiseptic burned like fire. He wrapped the arm tightly and injected the medicine. Within minutes, exhaustion hit her like a wave. She tried to stay awake. She failed. Emma woke to gunfire. 3 shots. Close. She rolled up instantly, grabbing the rifle. Voss was already at the cave entrance. "Stay low." He disappeared outside. Emma followed despite the pain. Morning fog covered the river. Voss crouched beside a body half submerged near the bank. Enemy scout. Dead. One clean knife wound to the throat. Emma stared. Voss pulled a radio from the dead soldier's vest. "They're tightening the perimeter." He turned the radio on. Static hissed. Then a voice spoke in accented English. "Sector 7 clear. Continue toward river grid. Priority target alive." Emma's stomach tightened. Priority target. Not survivors. Sir. They wanted her specifically. Voss smashed the radio with a rock. "We move now." "Where?" He looked north. "There's an old extraction point, hidden airstrip 40 miles. Emma nearly laughed. 40 miles might as well have been 400. She could barely stand. But staying meant death. So she followed. The jungle became worse. The rain stopped and the heat turned suffocating. Steam rose from the ground. Insects attacked every exposed patch of skin. Leeches clung to their boots in muddy streams. Voss moved silently, leaving almost no tracks. He avoided trails, streams, ridges, any route obvious enough for patrols. By noon, Emma's fever had eased, but hunger made her weak. They shared 1 can of beans. Voss gave her most of it. She noticed. "Why help me?" He didn't answer immediately. Finally he said, "Because I left someone behind once." She understood he meant his own team. The rest remained unspoken. Near sunset, they reached a narrow suspension bridge made from rope and wooden slats crossing a deep ravine. Half of it had collapsed. The river below smashed through rocks 30 feet down. Voss stopped. "No choice, cross." Emma stepped onto the first board. It creaked beneath her weight. The rope bridge swayed violently. She moved slowly. Halfway across, the first gunshot rang out. Wood exploded inches from her foot. "Sniper!" "Run!" Voss shouted. Emma sprinted. The bridge swung wildly. Bullets ripped through ropes and splintered planks. One shot snapped a support cable. The bridge dropped sideways. Emma screamed and grabbed the rope as boards fell away beneath her. Her rifle slammed into the ravine and disappeared into white water. She hung by one arm over the drop. Another shot struck the rope above her hand. Fibers snapped. She looked back. 3 enemy soldiers had emerged from the trees. One aimed directly at her. Voss stepped from cover and fired the stolen rifle. The sniper fell instantly. The other soldiers opened fire. Emma pulled herself upward, using the remaining rope. Her injured knee almost gave out. She clawed across the final boards and collapsed onto the opposite cliff. Voss cut the bridge rope with one slash of his knife. The remaining enemy soldiers fell back. as the bridge crashed into the ravine. For a moment, silence returned. Emma lay on the ground, gasping. Her rifle was gone. She was now down to only a sidearm and knife. Voss looked at her. "Still think this is random?" She said nothing, because deep down she no longer did. That night they camped inside the wreck of an old stone outpost overgrown with vines. Voss drew a rough map in the dirt. "Airstrip is here. One more day if we move fast." Emma stared at the drawing. Then something caught her eye. A symbol scratched into the wall beside them. Not local. Not enemy. American. Specifically, the insignia of her own classified task group. Her blood froze. She stood slowly. "Why is that here?" Voss turned. Saw it. His face changed. For the first time, he looked genuinely afraid. He grabbed his shotgun. "Pack up now." Emma stepped back. "Tell me." Voss spoke quietly. "I was wrong." The wind outside stopped. The jungle fell silent again. Voss looked at the symbol, then at Emma. His voice dropped. "They're not hunting you to kill you." Emma's throat tightened. "Then why?" Voss looked toward the darkness beyond the broken wall. "Because someone moved there. Watching them." And Voss whispered, "They're hunting you because your father is still alive, and they think you know where he is." The words hit Emma Carter harder than the crash. She stared at Daniel Voss, certain she had misheard him. "My father died when I was 9. Voss didn't answer right away. His eyes remained fixed on the darkness outside the ruined outpost. One hand tightened around the shotgun. Branches shifted. Something was out there. Watching. Emma pulled her sidearm and moved beside the stone wall, breathing shallowly. The jungle had gone completely silent again. No insects, no frogs, no wind. The kind of silence that came right before something terrible happened. Then a voice came from outside. American accent. Calm, familiar. "Emma, don't make this difficult." Her blood froze. She knew that voice. Captain Marcus Hale. Her commanding officer. He was supposed to be at headquarters hundreds of miles away. Yet he was here in the jungle, leading the hunt. Emma's hand shook. Voss whispered, "That's your traitor." Captain Hale stepped into the moonlight outside the ruin. His uniform was soaked from rain. His rifle hung loosely in his hands. Behind him, 6 armed men spread into the trees. Hale raised one hand. "You're surrounded. Put the weapon down." Emma stepped into the doorway, pistol aimed. Her voice came out rough. "You sold us out." Hale looked almost disappointed. "It wasn't personal." Voss gave a short laugh from the shadows. "It never is." Hale's eyes shifted. Recognition flashed. "Voss." He smiled faintly. "You should have stayed dead." Voss fired first. The shotgun blast shattered the night. One soldier fell backward before anyone reacted. Gunfire erupted from the trees. Bullets punched through stone and wood. Emma dropped behind the wall as splinters exploded above her. "Back exit," Voss shouted. She followed him through the rear of the ruined outpost, through hanging vines, down a slope so steep they nearly slid into the river below. Gunfire chased them through the jungle. Hale shouted behind them, "Take her alive." "Not them." "Her." The words burned in Emma's mind. They didn't care about Voss. They wanted her breathing. Which meant Voss was right. This was bigger than survival. They ran until dawn. Emma's lungs felt like they were tearing apart. Her fever returned in waves. Every step sent pain through her injured knee. Still, she refused to stop. Because Hale's voice kept echoing in her head. "Take her alive." At sunrise, Voss led her into a hidden cave behind a waterfall. The entrance was almost invisible unless you stood directly in front of it. Inside, he lit a small lamp. The cave walls were covered in old equipment. Crates, radios, maps. An entire hidden operations cache. Emma turned slowly. "You've been planning this." Voss said nothing. He opened one crate and removed a weathered metal box with a biometric lock. He pressed his thumb to it. The box clicked open. Inside were files, photographs, and an old military ID card. Voss handed her the top photo. Emma stared. Her knees nearly gave out. The photo showed a man standing beside a helicopter in desert camouflage, around 40 years old, same eyes as hers, same jawline. Her father. Alive. The photo date was only 6 months old. Emma looked up speechless. "This is fake." Voss shook his head. "No." She gripped the photo harder. "My mother buried him. She buried a closed casket." Emma's chest tightened. The cave suddenly felt too small. She remembered being 9 years old, the folded flag, her mother crying, officers standing at the door. The words "died serving his country." All of it may be a lie. She forced herself to breathe. "Who is he?" Voss met her eyes. General Nathan Carter, officially dead, unofficially the most hunted man in military intelligence. Emma stared at the photo again. Her father wasn't just alive. He was being hunted by the same people now hunting her. The truth came in fragments. Voss spread maps across the floor. Years earlier, Nathan Carter had led a black operation inside the jungle, one so secret it never officially existed. The mission uncovered evidence of corruption inside top command, officers selling intelligence, weapons, and troop positions to foreign groups for money. When Carter threatened to expose them, his helicopter was shot down. Officially. In reality, he disappeared before they could kill him. They had searched ever since. Because Carter had taken something. A drive. Encrypted. Containing every transaction, every betrayal, every name. Emma listened in silence. Her hands shook. "Why me?" Voss looked serious. "Because they think before he vanished, he left the decryption key with his family." Emma laughed once bitterly. "I never met him after he died." "They don't know that." She looked down at the photo again. A thought rose slowly. The necklace. She touched the dog tag hidden under her shirt. Her mother had given it to her the day she enlisted. Said it belonged to her father. She had worn it every day since. Her stomach turned. She removed it. The tag felt heavier than it should. Voss noticed instantly. "Show me." Emma handed it over. He studied the metal carefully, then smiled grimly. "There it is." He twisted the chain connector apart. A tiny black chip slid into his palm. No bigger than a fingernail. Emma's breath stopped. The key. She had carried it the entire time. The cave exploded. A grenade rolled through the waterfall entrance. Voss tackled Emma. The blast threw both across the stone floor. Dust and fire filled the cave. Soldiers stormed through the waterfall. Hail had tracked them. Gunfire flashed in the smoke. Voss shot one soldier in the chest. Emma grabbed his spare rifle and fired twice. Another enemy dropped into the water. Hale stepped through the smoke like he had all the time in the world. He saw the chip in Voss's hand. His expression changed. Then he smiled. "Thank you, saved us years." He raised his rifle. Emma fired first. The bullet struck Hale's shoulder. He spun and fell behind rocks as his men returned fire. Voss grabbed the chip. Move! They escaped through a narrow crack at the back of the cave, climbing a vertical tunnel hidden by roots. Bullets tore through stone behind them. Emma climbed until her arms shook. Voss pushed her upward. They emerged onto a ridge above the waterfall and froze. A helicopter hovered above the trees. Black. No markings. Descending directly toward them. Voss swore. They called extraction. Ropes dropped from the helicopter. More soldiers began descending. Emma looked down. Cliffs on both sides. No escape. Voss shoved the chip into her hand. Run east, airstrip. What about you? He loaded the shotgun. A hard expression crossed his face. I'll hold them. Emma grabbed his arm. You won't survive. He gave the smallest smile. Neither did your father. Then he pushed her toward the trees and turned to face the soldiers. Emma ran. Behind her, gunfire erupted. She heard Voss shouting. Then the shotgun. Then an explosion so loud the ground shook. She stopped and turned. The ridge behind her disappeared in fire. The helicopter spiraled sideways, smoking. Emma stood frozen, tears mixing with rain. Voss was gone. She was alone again. But now she carried the one thing everyone would kill for. And for the first time, she understood something terrifying. Her father might still be alive. And he might be waiting at the airstrip. Or he might be the one who set all of this in motion. By the time the sun rose through the jungle mist, Emma Carter had stopped feeling the pain in her leg. That scared her more than the wound itself. Pain meant she was still paying attention. Pain meant she was still thinking. But after watching the ridge erupt behind her, after seeing Daniel Voss disappear in the fire, something inside her had gone quiet. She moved because stopping meant death. Nothing else mattered. The jungle stretched in every direction, endless green and black shadows. Rain dripped from giant leaves onto her face. Her boots squelched in mud. Blood from her bandaged arm had soaked through the cloth again. In her pocket, the tiny black chip felt like a burning coal. Every person hunting her wanted that chip. And according to Voss, the man waiting at the airstrip might be her father. Or the reason all of this had happened. She reached the ridge above the hidden airstrip just after noon. And immediately dropped to the ground. The airstrip was real. A long strip of cracked concrete carved into the jungle, almost invisible beneath years of vines and moss. Rusted hangars stood at one end. An old communications tower leaned sideways, half consumed by trees. But it wasn't abandoned. A cargo plane sat on the runway. Engines running. Its rear ramp open. Men in black tactical gear patrolled the perimeter. At least 12. Emma's heart sank. Too many. She scanned the area carefully through a break in the ferns. And saw him. Standing beside the aircraft in a gray field jacket, speaking calmly to two armed soldiers. The man from the photo. Nathan Carter. Her father. Alive. Emma forgot to breathe. He looked older than the picture, more gray in his hair, deep lines in his face, but there was no doubt. He was real. She expected anger, relief, confusion. Instead, what she felt was cold suspicion. Because he wasn't a prisoner. He wasn't hiding. He looked like the one in command. A branch cracked behind her. Emma spun, rifle raised. Captain Marcus Hale stood 20 feet away, bleeding from the shoulder, pistol aimed directly at her. His face was pale from blood loss, but his smile remained. You really are hard to kill. Emma stepped sideways, keeping her weapon steady. You should be dead. Hale laughed once. So should your father. He gestured toward the runway. He built this. Emma's chest tightened. What is this? Hale took one step closer. A private extraction route, off-grid, no records, no witnesses. Your father used it for years, moving intelligence and money. Emma shook her head. No. You still think he's the hero? Hale's voice hardened. He wasn't exposing corruption, he was running it. The words struck deep, because a part of her had already feared it. She remembered Voss's last warning. He may be the one who set this in motion. Hale lowered his voice. He gave us fake coordinates for your mission. He knew your helicopter would be hit. He knew you would survive. Emma's finger tightened on the trigger. Why? Hale's eyes flicked toward her pocket. Because he knew you had the key. Emma froze. The chip. He had used her. Even before she knew. A voice came from the runway. Emma. She turned. Nathan Carter was walking toward the tree line alone. No weapon visible. No fear. Hale stepped back but kept the pistol trained. Nathan stopped just beyond the grass, eyes locked on hers. Up close, the resemblance was undeniable. Same eyes. Same expression. The man who had been dead her entire life stood 10 yards away. He spoke gently. I'm sorry. Emma felt rage rising so suddenly it shocked her. For what? Lying, sending my team to die, using me. Nathan's face tightened. I never wanted you involved. She laughed bitterly. That's not what it looks like. Hale interrupted. Don't listen to him, give me the key. Nathan's expression changed instantly. Cold. Dangerous. He looked at Hale without turning his head. You should have stayed down. Hale fired. Nathan moved first. He pulled a hidden sidearm and shot Hale twice in the chest. The captain dropped into the mud. Emma stood frozen. Nathan lowered the gun. Come with me, now we don't have time. She aimed her rifle at him. He stopped. For the first time, genuine pain crossed his face. I know what this looks like. It looks like you murdered my team. No. His voice sharpened. I sent the coordinates because I knew they would track you here. It was the only way to bring them all in one place. Emma stared. He stepped closer. The chip contains every name, every account, every officer who sold soldiers for money. Once it's uploaded, all of them fall. She didn't lower the rifle. Nathan glanced at Hale's body. He was one of dozens, but they were never the real enemy. Something moved above. Emma looked up. Her blood turned cold. 3 helicopters. Black. Approaching fast. Nathan saw them too. And for the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. They found us sooner than expected. He grabbed her arm. Decision now, trust me or die here. The helicopters opened fire before she answered. Bullets ripped through the tree line. Emma dove behind rocks as the jungle exploded around them. Nathan dragged her toward the airstrip. Soldiers in black tactical gear rushed to defensive positions around the plane. They were his men. Or so she thought. Until half of them turned their guns on the others. Chaos erupted. Gunfire from every direction. Double cross. Nathan shoved her toward the aircraft ramp. Get inside. She stopped at the ramp. Looked at the chip in her hand. Looked at the control tower. One satellite uplink dish still stood on the roof, damaged but functional. An idea hit instantly. She turned. Nathan saw where she was looking. His expression changed. No. She backed away. I'm not leaving. Emma. She ran. Toward the tower. Nathan shouted and followed. Bullets slammed into concrete around them. The first helicopter landed at the far end of the strip, troops pouring out. Emma climbed the rusted stairs two at a time. The tower shook beneath her boots. At the top, the old console still had power from a backup generator. She inserted the chip. The screen flashed. Encryption key accepted. Upload. Her hand hovered. Nathan reached the top, breathing hard. He stepped toward her slowly. Listen to me. If you send that, they'll kill everyone tied to it, including you. Emma stared at him. Were you using me? Silence. He didn't answer fast enough. That was answer enough. She pressed enter. The upload began. Nathan closed his eyes. Then the tower windows exploded. A sniper round tore through the control room. Nathan threw himself in front of her. The bullet hit his chest. He fell against the console. Emma caught him before he hit the floor. Below, helicopters circled while soldiers stormed the tower. Nathan coughed blood. His hand gripped hers weakly. I was trying to end it. Emma's eyes burned. He smiled faintly. Guess you finished it. The upload bar hit 100%. Transmission sent. Every file, every name, every betrayal. Public. Nathan exhaled once and went still. Hours later, rescue helicopters marked with the United States Army landed at the airstrip. But not the corrupt unit. Real military. International task force. The files had triggered arrests across 3 countries within minutes. Emma sat alone on the tower stairs, covered in mud and blood, watching medics move around her. A colonel approached quietly. He looked at her, then at Nathan's covered body. He saved the evidence. Emma shook her head. No. She looked at the jungle where Voss had died. At the runway where her team had fallen. At the sky finally clearing after 7 days. Then she said, "We all did." The colonel nodded once, then handed her a sealed envelope found in Nathan's jacket. Emma opened it. Inside was one photo. Her, age 9, sitting on her father's shoulders. On the back in faded ink. If you're reading this, you survived. That means you were stronger than I ever was. Emma stared at it as the helicopters lifted off around her. The jungle below grew smaller. But one question remained. If Nathan had planned for her to survive, then he had known the helicopter would crash. Which meant from the very beginning, she had never been on a mission. She had been the final part of his plan.